Hey everyone, this is Elon from the Egard podcast. And once again, I have the awesome, the one and only Officer Joshua Oliveri, aka Josh, aka the man of the hour, aka I got nothing else to say, Josh.
Mo. Okay, Mo. That works. How are you, Elon?
I'm good, man. I have to give a shout out to the new watch we're doing with William Shatner. It's dark. I don't know if you can see it. It's a very cool space watch over here.
Excellent.
So you get a first peek because we just finished the prototyping today. It's a funky watch. It's like multiple discs that rotate over each other. It's a unique time telling thing, and it was approved by NASA, which is awesome. And we have this crazy case back. I don't know if you could see it, but it's a really nice case back, and we're going to launch that soon. So that's my opening.
How is he to work with? And I mean, obviously now you can't say anything but phenomenal. Obviously.
Yeah.
There you go.
No, he's legitimately, he's super passionate to work with. So he'll like exactly how you imagine William Shatner would be is exactly what William Shatner is. Like he calls me up when we're working on the design, and he gets like an idea, and he's like, Elan, I saw these butterflies today. They had black wings, and I researched it, and they had the same black that you would see in outer space. So I want to incorporate this into that. I'm like, oh man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do all these ideas that you keep popping up with. But I much rather work with someone like him who's all in, who really cares about what we're trying to create and loves it, versus someone who's just like, oh, this is an endorsement. With him, it's an actual partnership. We work on it together. He's involved in every aspect of it. So it's very cool.
Awesome.
So are you interviewing me today? Is that what just happened?
No, you see how that flipped up on it? Oh, listen. It's not every day.
I know there's
every day somebody opens up by saying they're working with William Shatner. I mean, that's a hell of an opening. How do I top that? You know, how do you one up me out of the gate?
I think what we got to talk about right off the bat, because people are hopefully still watching and haven't checked out yet, is your charity.
Yes.
Let's give a big shout out. Tell people about it, what you're doing, and where they can help you out.
Sure. Brothers Before Others. Our website is brothersbeforeothers.org. We're registered 501c3. We were started in 2014 by retired NYPD police officer Mike Burke. When we started back in 2014, the goal was to simply send a flower arrangement to every line of duty death funeral, no matter where they happen in the country. And I always hate when I say simply, like it's that easy of a goal. It's actually been a monumental task that since 2014 has cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars, which has all come out of the pockets, mostly of our members, who are all sworn law enforcement, active or retired. And since then we've kind of morphed over the years. We keep changing every year. We've turned kind of into like an action group at this point, where we advocate for law enforcement. Again, a lot of our guys are retired, so they have a little more freedom with what they can and can't say than some of the guys that are active. But it's been really, really good. It's provided an outlet, especially for the retired guys. It keeps them around law enforcement. And again, a lot of our guys, you'd be amazed. One guy that comes to mind, and he probably hate that I bring up his name, and I don't care, is Henry Caden. Henry Caden is, we're pretty sure, again, we have no evidence to the fact, but we're pretty sure that he was Wyatt Earp's FTO. He's been around the planet for a long time. Retired. He was a Union City police officer, rose all the way up through the ranks and retired as an inspector there. And this guy, as removed from the job as he's been time-wise, you never know personality-wise. It's like he is just as invested in it today as he was when he was first sworn in, which is amazing to see. And he's one of many inside of our group like that. One of the current things we got going on, we're doing a military month in July. With it seems like everything out there has a month, right? Pick it, a religion, a race, ethnicity, a sexual orientation, everything's got a month. And we were all sitting around, we're like, well, how come we don't really have one of those for the guys and girls that actually facilitate that freedom to celebrate the things that we're all celebrating? There's scattered days here and there, remembering battles and remembering conflicts and remembering collectively individuals, a lot of which our holidays that our own president fails to even recognize. Um, D-Day, so that, which actually that the D-Day snub was kind of what really
The spark.
sparked that. Yeah, what really set it off. And listen, people can say anything they want. I mean, it'd be hard for them to actually say, the people that support him, it'd be hard for them to actually say he has dementia when they've lived in denial of the fact that he has dementia for all this time. So you really can't use that as an excuse. And if that's not an excuse, well, then you know what? The snub was intentional. And that to me makes really no sense. So yeah, we've been well into this month every day on our public page, our public Facebook page. If you just search brother BBO public, Brothers Before Others public, it'll come right up. You don't need any kind of access or anything to public page. And every day on there, we've recognized a soldier or a specific battle, and if it is a battle, we put a little historical background to it. We don't get too involved because again, it's just a post. It's not an actual, like news story. But again, just something out there, that the younger generation, really isn't hearing, or even forget the younger generation, any of us. Like I said, our own president isn't even recognizing some of this stuff now. And it's getting lost. It really is, and, so like you said, our charity, we could say, we could sit there and complain about it, or we could try to do something about it, and listen, what is it changing? I don't know, and maybe it changes nothing.
Say that.
Yeah,
No,
listen,
I mean, it's good that you're putting it up there. I mean, that's what matters. That's how you raise awareness. What do we do when I put out these messages and stuff like that? What am I trying to do? I'm trying to raise awareness.
Right. And that's just
trying
it.
to show support.
And you know what, if you reach one person, especially, which has been the case with some of these soldiers, if you reach their family, I mean, that's even more important. At one point between now and the end of the month, I'll speak about the old guard, and listen, all the ceremony and the circumstance around funerals, line of duty death funerals, military funerals, that is for the family, that is for the people that were left behind. The soldier died doing what he loves. The cop died doing what they love. This is for the family. The family needs to know that sacrifice was worth something, that everything that they gave up, everything that they're now going to live without for the rest of their lives, meant something to somebody somewhere, and that's kind of like, that's also part of the rationale behind what we're doing on the public page. They need to see that it does mean something to somebody, and there is somebody out there thinking about their sacrifice, that doesn't even know them,
Yeah. I want to say something about that. First of all, I'll put the link to your charity down below. Check it out. Please support my guys over here. They do an amazing job. But about that, it's pretty interesting because like I've even had conversations with people, and like it's interesting how first responders, police, military, whoever it is, there's almost a perceived selfishness in it when they do die. They're like, well, they're leaving behind their families. Well, like they're, you know what I mean? They only thought about themselves because that's what they love doing. And I'm like, no, it's the total opposite. They were willing to give up everything and sacrifice everything for their family, for their country, for other people. No one goes and does that because they're selfish. It's the exact opposite. So it is good to bring recognition to that and show what people are really giving up on, and to support the families of the people who now don't have a loved one anymore because that person went out and made the ultimate sacrifice for them. So I think it's really great.
100%. I mean, and like I said, it's if not for some kind of a legacy, then what are we doing this for? Again, morale has been so down, especially in law enforcement, and I'm sure we'll hit on it at some point in the next couple of minutes. To see the disregard, to see how little, the sacrifice means anymore. You've always heard it, and it seems like you're hearing it more often now when people try to diminish the sacrifice that law enforcement, civil servants in general, it's not just cops, fire, EMS, and our soldiers, you hear them say, oh, well, they signed up for it.
I hate that phrase. It's like, yeah, but you didn't. You did not. They did.
Right.
And right there's the distinction.
And and on top of that, it's like, somehow because the sacrifice and the risk was voluntary, in their brains that somehow relinquishes them from being grateful for it.
Yeah.
Which is it's madness. It's madness. Like you said, like, yeah, they did sign up for it. And thank God they did.
Yeah. It's actually the opposite. Because it was voluntary, it has more value. I really respect the person who goes, you know what, I don't need to do this, but I'm going to risk my life to make this world a better place, to do something I believe in. As opposed to the government stepping in and saying, no, you're forced to do it even if you don't want to. That would not, I mean, I would still feel very bad for people who went and lost their lives. I would still want to support their families, but that would be forced. That would be through obligation, not through choice. I mean,
Right.
that is what they're literally fighting for the choice to
It's-
live your life the way you want to live your life. So,
And it's crazy too, you know, doing all the research on these guys for each night. You know, it's amazing how many of these guys were, you know, dual service people. You know, like they're either you know, they were firemen and soldiers,
Mhm.
cops and soldiers, or then you get one, it's like a whole family affair. Like they had grandparents, great grandparents, down now they have siblings, and they're all, you know, either in the military or in law enforcement. Like, it's crazy how deep service runs, you know, in some of these guys' veins, in some of these families' veins, you know, and it's like anything else. You know, I think I said it in one of the posts a couple of nights ago that all things, you know, good and bad are learned behaviors. We're born sponges, you know, so and patriotism and love of country are not exceptions to that. You know,
but you know what I do think? I do think the type of person who will run into a burning building or will run in the line of fire to protect other people is not a learned behavior. I think that's a certain character, that's a certain type of person. They're the people who excel at these kind of jobs. It's why they volunteer to do it. It's a special kind of person. It's a hero personality. I think we should admire that character trait in people.
absolutely.
It's something no one ever talks about. It's like 99% of people will run away from a threat. 1% will run toward it in the hopes of saving someone else. That should not be overlooked. That is a special person. They're the anomaly in society. As much as we want to believe we're special, as much as we want to believe we'll stand in the face of danger and do it, we don't when push comes to shove, a lot of us. And so we should honor the people who have proven they will. So I don't know. I think what you're doing is great, man. Like I said.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it, man. And you're right about that hero personality. And it's funny because again, some of the names that come to mind. I mean, we had on our job, you know, I wasn't on our job for 9/11, but you know, I work with some guys that there's few left that were still working that day, but there are still some around. And it's amazing. Like you look at the roll calls from that day, guys who were off, everybody just came running in, you know, and they were stopping at the desk, giving their name. So you would have the printed out roll calls of all those guys that were working that day. And then there were handwritten names of guys who were home seeing this horror happen on TV, like everybody else, you know, and everybody else that was, you know, with the lines of people, you know, if you remember the images, you know, walking over the Brooklyn Bridge, you know, and just, you know, hurting their way out away from that danger, hurting. And here are these guys, you know, running in from wherever they were, signing at the desk and just going.
You know what I have to say about that? If we do not keep talking about those people, we do not keep mentioning that that's what they did, people will forget. People have forgotten. I mean, that's why we had the whole defund police movement, in my opinion, was heavily driven by this idea that there's this systematic issue in police. They inherently are evil or racist, and that it's this generalized kind of approach. What's interesting is since then, which was, what is this, couple of years ago, not even maybe, that this in extreme rhetoric, because crime rates have skyrocketed since the defund police movement, because you know, people have now needed police. You've noticed the administration start shifting tunes in some areas, being like, oh no, even what you wanted to talk about, the whole AOC thing, how she's suddenly pro arresting someone because she doesn't, you know, police are always good when you need them.
Well,
and so
listen, I you know,
let's
well,
talk about the AOC thing. So give the background about what happened, and then we'll jump into that. That'll be.
I mean, there's really not much to it other than the fact that somebody just decided to say some off-color comments about her appearance, about her looks.
Her booty.
Yeah, I mean, you want to say derogatory? I mean, I
Sure.
guess. Yeah, sure. I mean, it's, you know, off color, yeah. I mean, inappropriate, absolutely, without a doubt. Criminal, no, not even close. You know, and I hate to keep picking on, you know, as Tucker Carlson loves to call her, which I always get a kick out of every time he says, he calls her Sandy, which I love it. Sandy Cortez. You know, because it's not just her, it's all these politicians. And listen, it's Democrat, Republican, it's all of them. You know, they're all in the same boat when it comes to this, because let's be real, no matter what their affiliation is, they'll say whatever they have to say to gain power. So, and they're all the same in that way. And yeah, abandoning the police is just the latest in the trends of a way to endear yourself to this thankless population. So it's not just her, but she is one of the loudest mouths when it comes to that. And it always amazes me. You know, you want to tell these politicians, hey, lead from the front. You know, if you are going to be beating the drum of how useless and unneeded police are, if not dangerous, I mean, outright, you know, police apparently, according to some of these defund people, you know, if police would just go away, you know, everything, I guess, you know, would be, we live in a utopia. You know, criminals would just stop committing crimes if cops just stopped arresting them. Apparently, I don't know how that exactly lines up logic wise, but they seem to have it all figured out. But it always tickles me when you see some of the loudest mouths, you know, like AOC, you know, complaining about police, have every issue under the sun about police. But the minute somebody says something that she doesn't like, you know, she now wants them, not only does she want police, but she wants them to unlawfully arrest somebody on her behalf. She's okay with
freedom of speech. Yeah, that's literally what happened. She literally called the police 5 times, I believe, to arrest this individual.
And then blasted them after the fact. And then blasted them after the fact for just standing around. Mm-hmm. And if I understand it right, and again, you know, if I'm wrong, somebody can certainly correct me. You know, the guy, he went for a little bit. He said it more than one time and in multiple different ways. You know, professed his love for her. You know, referenced her booty on multiple times, and I guess one of the times he referenced touching her or hugging her or something, some kind of
he referenced. I don't know what he said. He said I may want to, but he definitely never approached her or anything like that.
But even at that point, when he said that, that's when the cops actually approached him. They actually, you know, they ran his name to make sure they didn't have any warrants. He didn't have any kind of, you know, outstanding stuff going on that would raise it higher than just him running his mouth. But they did take action when it got to the point of at least the insinuation of a attempt at physical contact
or harassment or whatever it may be.
I mean, again, which that's appropriate. Now that's appropriate, you know. But again, arrest. I mean, we could say, you know, think of an alternate universe, you know, where that's Trump and somebody's saying something about Trump, you know, making fun of his hair or something like that, or you know, anything, and he orders the cops, you know, or attempts to order the cops to go arrest somebody. The media would run with that for a month. They'd still be talking about that now. You know, how he's trying to use law enforcement as his own personal, you know, military force. They would go crazy with it if somebody that wasn't one of their darlings.
Yeah, the irony here is that AOC has talked many times about how an interaction with police, even if it's a harmless one, can become fatal because of, like, you know, the threat's always there, so you shouldn't even call the police on people. She's made really weird comments like that in the past, how it's dangerous to call the police on people, especially minorities, but then she's out calling the police. Anyway, her own hypocrisy is pretty astounding because of the negative rhetoric she puts out while simultaneously calling the police when she needs them. But that, like you said, that's everyone nowadays. The hypocrisy is not unique to her. It's kind of just become overwhelming. There's this case also that happened recently with the 4-year-old. I'll run through all the details of it. There was a guy, right? And if I say something wrong, just punch the camera and then correct me.
That's all right.
You have to punch the camera first, though. So pretty much there was this guy flashing his gun in a McDonald's. He left, they called the police, and they pulled him over. They take him out of the car. His 4-year-old.
Well, yeah, flashing a gun in the drive-thru at a McDonald's because his order was wrong. I mean, yeah. Think about that at the where we're at as a society, where that's just that's happening. For anybody
But
that
listen,
doesn't
I've had my
think you
order
need
wrong.
cops. Yeah, but I mean, listen, it is frustrating. It's like
Very frustrating. I ordered
so-
2 cheeseburgers the other day. I mean, I ordered 2 hamburgers with no cheese. They gave me cheeseburgers.
Yeah. Well, because they probably think you. No, never mind.
I'm lactose intolerant, bro.
I was gonna make a weight joke, but I'm not gonna do it. I'm just saying.
What do you mean? I'm
Maybe
fit.
it looked like you
I'm
needed cheese.
fit.
I don't want any problems, dude. Listen, I don't want and you want me to punch the camera? No.
So
Yeah, I
well,
mean,
and then the 4-year-old got a hold of his gun as he was out of the car being arrested.
Yep.
And started shooting at the police officers. Luckily, the police officers were not only able to, but very well. They handled it very well. They de-escalated the situation.
Yep.
They disarmed him, got him to drop the gun, and then took him out of the car. He was crying because he's 4. He's a baby, pretty much. Didn't even know what was going on. And there is some talk I heard that the father told him, I believe, to shoot at the police, but I don't know if that's true or not.
Wow. Yeah, that part I didn't hear. But again, it wouldn't surprise me. This gets back to what we were talking about with the military, where all these behaviors are learned, they're taught somewhere, good and bad. A 4-year-old doesn't know to pick up a pistol and fire it at anybody, let alone police. They're taught that. They're told that's yeah.
That's how I see it. That didn't come out of nowhere. You have
Of course
to know
not.
what a gun
Of course
is,
not.
how to handle the gun.
Of course, and not even whether or not he's taught how to handle the gun, just taught that it's okay. But again, this is the society that we're in. This is the society that doesn't want police. Yeah, I make it make sense to me that somehow everybody thinks, things are just going to magically be safer. This is the kind of stuff that exists out there. Who's going to handle that if law enforcement's not around? Who's going to, or are these people just magically going to turn into law-abiding citizens, nice people all of a sudden, when cops go away? Someone's going to have to deal with that.
And just, I mean, I can't even imagine from those police officers' standpoint, what do they do at that moment? There's a 4-year-old shooting a gun at you. He's still a legitimate threat to your life. You know what I mean? You could be so controlled at that point.
Correct.
He could shoot you in
the head. And honestly, I don't even know if they knew at the moment, because you hear them like after they yell shots fired, they draw down on a car and then someone has to yell kids. Like, I don't know if they even knew the kid had fired at that point. They were probably thinking there was an adult ducked down in the front seat somewhere. Because again, you're like you said, how does that register with your brain that a 4-year-old is, it just fired a weapon at you? What do you do with that? What do you do with that? And like you said, what if he kept firing? It's insanity. It's insanity. But then again, what do these cops think about that position that they're in?
It's an impossible situation, no matter what they do. Like, either they really handled it perfectly. They came out lucky that no one was shot. But if that kid had been aiming at them and kept shooting, what do you do? And if God forbid they did shoot back at the kid, they would be vilified forever. That would be the end of them and their families and everyone around them. It would be considered the biggest travesty of all time. When in reality, I don't know what the solution is at that point. You have an active shooter. Yep. So it's a really sticky situation. It's not good for anyone. I really, like, people don't take into account those split-second situations, the amount of adrenaline, the shock. You got to get home to your family at the end of the day. I mean, someone's shooting a gun at you. It's scary.
And at that point, like, the other thing that has to be factored in, and watching the video, I couldn't tell if they had the father secured in handcuffs yet at that point. The other thing to consider is if the kid starts firing and now you have to find some kind of cover or some kind of retreat. If that guy isn't secured, he could very easily get up and retrieve that firearm from the kid. I mean, there's so many layers to that. So it's not like it's just something like, okay, well, let's just wait till he runs out of ammo. Let's take cover and let the 4-year-old, run the magazine empty.
Yeah, and there's also
as insane as that is.
I mean, he could still a stray bullet still kill some innocent bystanders just walking around on the street. Just
Yep.
get caught with a bullet.
Correct.
I mean, you can't just let bullets go flinging around. It's just crazy to me. You're right. That's kind of a real representation of like the bottom of the barrel and just how bad things can sometimes get, and how police officers can literally be in an impossible situation.
Correct.
And there's no winning. I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I'm sure you can attest this as a police officer, but there's times where it probably feels like there's no winning in this situation. You're like, I'm here, my life's in danger. If I do this, it's gonna suck. If I do this, it's gonna suck. I'm the bad guy no matter what. It could cost me my life.
You know, that 4-year-old had to learn from somewhere that action was okay. You know, and listen, I know this is going to come as a surprise to you, and probably everybody that knows me. I actually gave the speech at my academy graduation. But during that, one of the lines that I had said is that every interaction that a police officer has with somebody, even if traffic stop, any kind, you're going to create an advocate or an adversary. All right. You know, our job is unique in that, done properly, especially from the service or from the protection standpoint, we're going to be pissing somebody off. Our job done properly is going to aggravate somebody. Somebody's leaving not happy, which is a real tough spot to be in, because we really, you know, again, we're creating an enemy by simply doing our job. But when you use the example of like traffic stops, or when there are large families involved, you have to remember as a police officer, when you leave there, how you conducted yourself is going to be the topic of conversation for the next hour, 2 hours, days, weeks. And, you know, those kids are going to be forming their opinions off of what they're hearing said, what they're hearing talked about. So that 4-year-old, you know, it makes you wonder, you know, what is that 4-year-old hearing at home or even at school? You know, it's nothing surprising anymore. What is that 4-year-old hearing that they think that's okay?
Mm-hmm.
Not just grabbing the gun, but like I said, but firing it at police officers.
Well, actually, I saw another video of these police officers. They were in, I don't know where they were, but there were these kids, and they were just like young shirtless kids. They must have been like, I don't know ages. I'm not good with age, but they're really young, like 7. You know what I mean? If I remember correctly. And they're just like, the police officers were there, and they're just cussing out the cops.
Yeah.
They're telling them off, swearing at them, and people are standing around laughing and like applauding it. And like even the comments, people were applauding it. And I was like, man, this is like a real cultural issue in society when you have kids that age, you know, acting that way toward police officers in public. And number one, the parents don't see, either the parents aren't around, but these kids were young. I mean, like, I can't remember perfectly. That's why I don't want to say a certain age and be wrong or whatever. If I can find the video, I'll cut away to it and link it in this podcast so people can see. But it was very, very disturbing. And I was like, man, that pretty much just sums up everything nowadays. Like any video I go on where there's a police officer, any conversation, anything, it's like, oh, fuck the police, pigs, this, that. And it's like immediately negative. And and then if you tell them like,
and fearless. I mean, absolutely
Mhm.
fearless with, you know, and we've touched on it before multiple times, you know, with the concept of hiding behind my shield. You know, it's gotten so out of control. And for, you know, for anybody that hasn't heard it before, the reference, what that basically does is, or says is, when, you know, you hear people say a lot of times, oh, the cops just hide behind their badge. You know, if they didn't have that badge on, you know, they wouldn't do the things they do. They wouldn't talk the way they talk. They wouldn't, you know, be out here doing this. That badge they hide behind. Well, no, in reality, they hide. The civilians, the people on the other side, hide behind our shield, because if we didn't have that shield on, they wouldn't talk to us the way they talk to us. They wouldn't act the way they act. They wouldn't say the things that they say. But the only reason they do that is because we have that shield on, and they know we can't, you know, we're bound by a certain code. We're bound by a certain, you know, rules of ethics. You know, we can't respond. We can't react the way that somebody else anybody else, in any kind of a street altercation would react. So in reality, they're the ones doing the hiding. And I mean, and the level of disrespect has gotten so out of control. I mean, again, I've had multiple interactions, but I mean, even like on a petty level, where you got a guy driving around in a vehicle that's got no registration, no insurance, the plate that's on the vehicle is fake, and now is refusing to give me identification. And when I now let them know, hey, listen, that's arrestable. You don't have a lawful right to refuse to give me identification on a traffic stop. Like, you don't have the right to do that. And with a straight face, the kid says to me, is this really a road you want to go down? Like, it's one of those ones I had to look over your shoulder, like, oh shit,
the car
you
could
are
be stolen at that point, by the way. Like, you really don't know if the car is stolen at that point.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like, it's unbelievable. Like, to you put yourself in their position where they know how wrong they are, and they're still that arrogant and that aggressive with law enforcement, because again, they know that this is the climate, that more often than not, the answer to that question, actually, to that kid, more often than not, is no. There's not the road that a lot of these cops don't want to go down, because it's just not worth it anymore. And the kids, and they know it. Criminals know it. And as it turns out, this kid had just been arrested. So let's say, for argument's sake, this interaction was about a month ago. This kid had just been arrested earlier in the year for driving around in a car with a stolen plate on it at our facility. So he knew the drill. Like, this is not, just some innocent kid that was, taken advantage of and given a fake plate. No, this kid knew what he was doing, and still that arrogant. And that's not an isolated situation. That is all the time. And listen, you hear people, they advocate for body cameras, I'm a big fan of that. And, and listen, I know within the law enforcement community, a lot of cops, look down on that. They follow this, idea that our word should mean anything. Listen, get over that. It doesn't anymore. You can fight that all you want and say that it should. I agree that it should. Any logical adult, agrees that it should, but it doesn't anymore. And
no, but it protects the officer as much as it protects the civilian.
100%. Listen, in-house, and I've said it a million times, in-house, I'll take any kind of discipline. I'm whatever, whatever it is, it is, they want to, if they're talking about bosses watching these videos and then, picking apart the minor in-house stuff, yeah, all right, that's going to get annoying and that's going to impact cops on one side. But like I always joke around with people, especially having worked in one, I'm not built for jail. Like, I don't ever want to be in a position where there's 4 videos of an altercation between me and a violent suspect, and all of those videos belong to somebody other than law enforcement. I don't ever want to be in that position, because like every video that's out there that's ever been in any of these altercations, they all start, once the rolling around on the ground has happened, and you don't get the pre to that. And then it becomes a he said, she said, and now you're on a stand. Forget fighting for your job, or forget fighting over, petty discipline because you didn't have your hat on. Now you're fighting for your freedom. Now you're fighting for your life, and if that's going to be the case, if my livelihood and my freedom is going to depend on video, well, you know what? One of those videos is going to be mine, and it's going to start from the minute I get out of the car, and it's going to have everything. And more often than not, when you see law enforcement body cam, you see how just outright ignorant people are, and the amount of times that people have gotten caught, lying, filing police reports, that, oh, cops harassed me, or cops said this, or cops said that, and then all of a sudden they find out, oh wait, that cop had a body camera, and then they all
over
watch
and over and over.
Yep, it's endless. Which again, like I said, was why I'm a big fan of that. But I mean, if people saw, and this would be a perfect example, like if people saw the level of arrogance that's out there, and just fearlessness from the criminals, how many, vehicles, stolen or otherwise, sometimes it's for just petty reasons. They just don't stop. They just don't stop anymore. Because why? almost every state out there has, just clamped down on cops, pursuing vehicles. I know, they're just starting to come back now where they say, oh, now you could pursue stolen vehicles. But again, you got to remember, just because, state government is saying you can do it, doesn't mean that the individual departments have to do it. They could still say, no, you know what? We don't want you doing that. And if you don't think the criminals know that, okay, well, why even stop? Why stop? Just keep going. They're not going to chase me. It's crazy, and then that creates a dangerous situation because they don't just drive away at 20 miles an hour.
No, they drive away. I mean, I've even saw a video recently of someone stealing a car and he ended up killing a woman. He crushed her between two cars. It was very troubling.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, people seem to be killing each other a lot over food lately. There was a guy in Atlanta who shot a guy at Subway, the food place, for not making a sandwich right.
Dude,
people are getting real crazy.
It's gonna get crazier.
Well, because we're endorsing this kind of behavior. We've been for a very long time endorsing the kind of behavior that says there's no such thing as consequence. We're pushing this on people that they should be entitled to behave the way they want, and that consequence is actually a byproduct of white supremacy or whatever it is. And it's like, no, I mean, you shoot somebody for making the wrong sandwich. I mean, that is, it's a crazy behavior, but it stems from, well, let's stop arresting people for this crime. Let's stop arresting people for this crime. Let's stop arresting them for this crime. You escalate. Eventually people just start behaving the way they want and you have chaos. That's literally what the whole concept of the thin blue line is, isn't it? Isn't that like literally the division between order and chaos?
Yep.
That is what it is. You do not see a better representation of that than in society today, in places where we heavily defunded the police. And just in a year and a half, we saw such a skyrocketing of chaotic behavior, of criminal behavior, because that's literally what the police are there for. That is literally what they represent.
And now the problem is, and again, it's almost like prophetic how we talked about it months ago. And you said, this is going to happen. It's just happening at a faster rate than I think anyone really could have predicted. But we all said, when it gets to that point, how do you walk that back?
You can't.
The take back, which is inevitable. It absolutely is inevitable. But that take back is going to be violent because now these criminals are empowered, right? And now they're literally running the streets. I
mean, watch any movie from like the 80s about like neighborhoods overrun with gangs and what the police have to do when they come in and take control.
I mean, this is almost like, think of a jail riot, right? And we have a larger scale of the same thing. The inmates have overtaken the facility right now, and they are running the facility right now, right? So everybody's mustered up outside trying to figure out what to do now, because now they let it get out of control.
Mm-hmm.
There is no nice way of doing it. It's not going to be pretty.
No, there's no way to do it pretty. Man, LA and New York and Atlanta and a bunch of other places are LA is out of control and it's just going to get worse.
And listen, New York's not much better. New York.
Yeah, it's really bad. New York too, I know. So on this final note, I finally got glasses for my astigmatism. Do I look smarter?
Of course. Yeah, nah. I mean, of course. Listen, I've already made a weight joke in the middle. If you expect me to make fun of your glasses, it's not happening. Sorry. I value my safety. Self-preservation is definitely something that I have.
So here's what I'll say again. The link to Brothers Before Others is down below in the comment section or in the description section. Thank you again, Josh. It's always awesome having you on, my man. And we should do this more often. Whenever something comes up, just hit me up.
The problem is it's happening so fast. How many times have we decided that we're going to talk about something, and before you know it, 2 other things have happened between that and the next? It's unbelievable.
Yeah, the news cycle is incredibly quick nowadays, just because of how fast things are moving. It's true. But I always learn something when I talk to you, so that's it's really beneficial for me. And I'm sure for the people watching as well. So I appreciate it. Appreciate everything you do. And thanks again, man.
Thank you, man.